Welcome back to Key.io Bite-Sized Bits, where we think about bite-sized ideas on how it can help you or your company hit its true potential. Today's topic is how to create the best user experience possible, whether it's your business, whether it's your new business, an existing business, no matter what kind of business you have, how do you create the best user experience possible? I'll give you an awesome exercise that you can do with your teams to try and figure that out. And my name's Luke Summerfield. I'm coming to you today. You can see in the background here, for those of you watching the YouTube video, from Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, just down the road from where I live here in the States. And you can see this Harry Potter-looking building in the background is the meal hall, the chow hall, where all of the freshmen eat their lunches and breakfasts every day. So, going to the topic of how to create the best user experience possible, I have an amazing exercise for you. Though before we start that exercise or explain that exercise, I want to make a few notes. The first note is that I think that when people go to start creating anything, whether it's a user experience, whether it's trying to brainstorm to solve a problem, whatever it is, a lot of times they come in with some very limited thinking and preconceived notions, and that constricts their ability to brainstorm the best solution for certain things. And so in this case, when we think about how to build something for our businesses, for the user experience, oftentimes what I see and what I've fallen into the trap of myself is to think about how do we build something that scales? How do we build something that we can implement with 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 10,000 people? And the second you walk into the conversation, brainstorming in the conversation with that preconceived notion of like we're only going to think about things that can scale, you're constricting your ideas, you're constricting your thought patterns and your brainstorming ability to that. And so we need to completely throw that out the window and not think about those things. Now, of course, there's going to be some level where we need to match, like what is this ideal if we had unlimited resources, unlimited budget, all these things. How do we match that with something that's realistic for our circumstances of our business? But going into the conversation, going into the brainstorming with that mindset is only going to constrict your ideas. So that's kind of my first point on thinking, like, first, just step away from your day-to-day, step away from what you're doing today, step away from your preconceived notions that it has to be scalable for you to do, and start thinking about more of the ideal, like in an ideal world. So that's kind of number one. And the second reason you want to do that is not only does it constrict your brainstorming and your thought pattern, but the second thing is that if you're in a startup, if you're starting to get the ball rolling, like, it doesn't matter if it scales. You don't want it to scale. You want things that work. You want things that build traction. You want things that provide such an amazing user experience that person is going to go above and beyond to not only pay you more money and stick around with you longer, but also tell their friends, tell their families. And many times, providing that type of a user experience when you're first starting out and first building traction isn't something that necessarily will scale. And I'll give you, as we go through this exercise, I'll explain how you can then bridge the world into turning that into something that does scale. So the exercise itself is step one, get together with your team and set the ground rules that we need to eliminate all those preconceived notions that we have to be thinking about things that scale, and tell them in an ideal world with unlimited budget, unlimited resources, doesn't matter if it scales. This is kind of, we have the limitless possibilities of what we could create. Second thing, ask each person in the room to write down someone that they deeply care for, whether it's their mother, sister, father, brother, significant other, whoever that is, someone that they absolutely deeply care for. Step 3, give a hypothetical scenario and say, if this person, your mother, your father, your sister, brother, significant other, if this person was a customer and they were our only customer, we only had one, what is the ideal customer experience you would want to give to that person? What is the mother experience? What is the father experience? What is the brother, sister, significant other experience that you would give that person in an ideal world? And thinking about it from, whatever part of the journey you're focusing in on. But let's say whatever that particular part of the journey you're focusing in on, what is the ideal experience for that person? And you're going to start coming up with very, very different experience based off of that. When you think about giving one single individual the experience that best fits that person and that goes above and beyond and is a remarkable, wow, like holy cow, I can't believe that I got treated this well experience. That's where we want to start the conversation. That's what we want to brainstorm to try and create. And I think it's important to use significant other in that context, is because that helps you really make sure that you're really doing the things that you can keep those people in mind as you're building that out. So, for example, if I was, let's say I was starting a touring of Boston, touring of Harvard University, since that's where we are today, the way that I tailor an experience and the things that I would do would be for my mother. Let's say my mother and father just visited town last summer, and we took them all around town. Knowing about them, knowing who they are, knowing what their preferences are, knowing what time they go to bed, what time they wake up, what kind of food they like, what type of activities they enjoy doing, I can then tailor this experience very, very differently for them. If you came to me with the same question saying, how do we build amazing tours of Boston, and I immediately thought, okay, how do I do this for 10,000 people? The experience and the things that I personally interacted with them and did would be very, very different. And so what I'm getting at is that that's the starting point, is we need to think about how do we tailor a unique experience for a single individual and what would be the ideal. Now, the last part of this activity is saying, okay, if that's what the ideal looks like, that's the ideal user experience, how do we then use things like technology? How do we use things, because most likely when you first start out, a lot of that stuff's not going to be through technology. Like if I thought about my mother going through a specific user experience of a company, it would be a lot of phone calls, it would be a lot of in-persons, it would be a lot of hand-holding and really getting knowing them, spending a lot of time with them and all of this, and really coaching them along the way. To provide that remarkable experience. Once we've got that kind of journey for that individual, now it's time to take a step back and say, okay, if this is what the ideal looks like for one person, how do we start thinking about using things like technology, using things like other outsized resources in order to try and make that same exact experience scale? And at that point, that's where you can start introducing the idea of scaling that user experience. And you may find that there are certain things that you just absolutely can't scale. It's very, very hard. And so for you, you need to determine, depending on the size of your business and where you are and the type of experience that you want to give those people, is that something that you're willing to invest that extra time and energy in, knowing that it's not it's not going to scale? Is that moment in that person's journey so critical to providing a remarkable experience that you're willing to invest that extra time and energy into that moment versus automating it or something like that? And so going through the journey and looking at those different things. So anyway, then you could start to build how to build a scalable experience. So a little bite-sized activity for you to use as you're starting to brainstorm how to create the best user experience possible. Start with an individual, start with a loved one, what would be ideal, and then from there say, what are the pieces, what are the steps in this journey that we may want to automate, or we may want to do in some different way in order to be able to scale it, and then what are the things that we really want to double down on and invest our time and energy into this, and know that it's not scalable, but it's worth it in terms of providing a remarkable experience. So any other thoughts you have, feel free to throw it in the comments. We'd love to have a conversation on your thoughts and things that you've learned along the way in your journey of building customer experiences. If this is interesting topic you think it'd be helpful for colleagues or other business owners or other people you know, feel free to please share this video out to them. And make sure you subscribe either to the YouTube channel or to the podcast. We have it in both, depending on your format of choice, for more great bite-sized ideas, both on business and also personal, and just kind of growing to your peak potential. And check out key.io, key with two Y's, KEYY. .io for other tools, resources, and trainings on how to help you hit your true performance. So I will talk to you soon, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.